Bitcoiners, hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well. Tom, good morning, friends. I've got my mouse back so I can show your statements. Let me just get this framed up here. All right. Jose, what's up, my man? Good morning, friends. Indeed, good morning. Good morning. These titles keep getting better and better. Well, we love the title writing, Jose. We love the title writing. Go back into the catalog. There's some really good ones. There's some really good ones over time. Some good, some are good. Sometimes I don't quite get there, but today I like it. There is no place like home, Joseph. We will not be talking about the Wizard of Oz today, but you never know. We might. It happens. Good morning, BTC fam. Indeed, Ben. Good morning. Bon matin tous. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Thank you for that. Where do I sats? CK reminding us all to smash the like. Good morning, CK. Hope you're doing great, man. Joe. Good morning, everyone. Indeed. Good morning, Joe. Good morning. We got a King Musa. Morning from Florida, where we love Trump, but not as much as Bitcoin. We're going to be talking about Trump. Those are always fun times when we get to talk about him. Some people hate it, but what can you do? Coffee, sun. Oh, you stole my punchline. You stole my punchline, LMH. Indeed. We got a sun and we got a Bitcoin running. So let's have a coffee and talk about what's new. Sometimes I click on them and I don't read them in time. I'll do a few more hellos. I would have saved that one for the very end. Good morning, team, Daniel says. We got Tommy with a good morning, Satoshi. We're all Satoshi. P-Man Van, good morning. It's Moscow time. We got some amazing Moscow time. The first two that I have today are simulation winks, right? We love simulation winks. They're really fun. So this one is, hilarious. So the NSA, these are the systems we're supposed to be supporting, right? The FBI has raided the home of an NSA employee, and it was a woman, and they found at her home 16 million dick pics. So they went into her house. FBI raid at NSA employee's home reveals over 16 million dick pics this woman kept. And what was her name, right? So this is the simulation wink part, right? I don't know if anyone made the connection yet, but the FBI agents went there. They discovered an estimated 16 million pictures of men's genitals, also known as dick pics. And they've charged Hillary Wang. So Hillary Wang had 16 million dick pics while working for the NSA. That's pretty good. It actually fits into our story today, right? So would you trust Hillary Wang with dick pic policing? Doesn't look like it was a good choice, right? Doesn't look like it was a good choice. Here's my next simulation wink. We're going to start talking about Trump. Of course, well, no, hold on. I'll get to the next simulation wink in a second. Let me do this one first. Just because, Jahan Jones, he often writes for the Read Out, Joy Reid on MSNBC. Sounds like a lot, Joe says. Yeah. 16 million dick pics from an NSA employee. This is why we have the NSA, everyone. So the Miss Wang can get 16 million pics of Wangs. Training the AI on our dicks. Training the And who's her husband? Dick Hertz? Yeah, it could be. Dick Hertz. Hillary Wang. All right. Training the AI on our dick pics. Yeah, they are. So this one's pretty good. So Jahan Jones, right, is writing in MSNBC about Sarah Huckabee Sanders. So Sarah Huckabee Sanders, if you don't remember her, She was Trump's press secretary for a little while before he hired Kayleigh McEnany. And then she became the governor of the state of Arkansas. So she went from being press secretary to the governor of the state of Arkansas. I wonder if the one that we have now, she tweeted from her own account this morning instead of the White House account, which was pretty funny, right? Joe Biden, since I've become president. Everyone laughing at her. Hey, an honest mistake. That's okay. We're not going to laugh too much at whatever her name is. So here's Jahan Jones writing in MSNBC, and here's an example of a headline that is just pure Moscow time. Sarah Huckabee Sanders admin is waging war on Black history. So what is it? What's waging war mean in 2023? What is waging war in mainstream media? What is her offense? What has she done to wage war on Black history? What's the war? I'll just read you the next headline. Under its GOP governor, Arkansas is making it more expensive and less worthwhile for high schoolers to take an AP course on African American studies. That's it. That's waging war. It's no longer mandatory to take a class on African American studies. War, right? Pretty good one. But here's the other simulation wink, right? And I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, okay? I'm just going to read the article, and then I'm going to tell you who wrote it. Breaking, this is from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Breaking, Trump allies will be booked at Fulton County Jail, sheriff says, right? So they go on. Prosecutors say the former president. And then they let us know. I just wanted to include this, right? Because this was the whole point of the article. It's just one paragraph. And then I'll tell you who wrote it, right? And that'll be the simulation wink, right? This is the second simulation wink. The first one was Wang and the dick pics. This is another one. So here's the point of this article about Trump and all this stuff, right? He says, keep in mind, defendants can turn themselves in at any time into jail, okay? So you can just go to jail whenever you want if you're wanted. So that's the good news, right? The jail is open 24/7. The sheriff's office said that, right? The jail is open 24/7. Also, due to the unprecedented nature of the case, some circumstances may change with little or no warning. So who wrote this? Now, I'm definitely going to get the pronunciation wrong, right? But this person's name, who writes for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, letting us know that the jail is always open and anyone can just turn themselves in. If you just feel like going to jail, you can go, right? It's written by a person named Shady Abusaid. That's their name. Shaddi. Maybe Shadi. I don't know. Shady. Shadi. Shady. First name. Second name. Abusaid. Abuse aid. Shady abuse aid. I think that's the person. Maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong. I don't know. So we got the Wang with the dicks, and we got the Shady abuse aid giving us advice about how prisons are open all the time. Thank you, Shady abuse aid. Shady abuse aid. What a great name. Shady. Tell me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. I don't know. Shoddy abuse aid. Shoddy is the abuse aid. Shoddy. I don't know. We don't know. Nobody knows. All right. We got a few more for our friend Trump. This one's really great, right? This is from MSNBC. Okay. So this is the fourth time Trump has been indicted now. Okay. So this is a current headline. This is what they have to say. The question isn't why Donald Trump has been indicted 4 times. As Steve Bannon writes, the better question is how the former president managed to go this long without having been indicted before. Okay. It's nothing to do with the 4 indictments. It's clearly, right? The better question is not, the question is not, why is one political guy who's got all kinds of questions indicting and trying to arrest his political opponent in America? That's not the question. The better question, guys, the better question is, why did it take so long? Come on, why? This one's really great. Remember I told you they got the podcast on MSNBC, right? They got a podcast prosecuting Donald Trump, right? So they got 4 things to talk about, but they're letting you all know this is a programming note from MSNBC. And this is from the host, Ollie Velshi, right? This is him, communicating, just a helpful public service. And he goes, friends, I will be reading the Georgia indictments. This is a long one. more than twice as long as each of the federal indictments. So we will release it over 2 episodes of the Prosecuting Donald Trump podcast. Expect the first installment late Tuesday or early Wednesday. So you can get that today, right? You can get that today. This one's great. This is from the Boston Globe, and they ask, right, in the context of the Georgia indictment against Trump shows no one is above the law. This is their great logic. No one's above the law, right? So within, to really sort of intellectualize the idea of no one being above the law, they added this kicker as a sub-headline. The government can enforce every law, right? Who gets to decide which ones it does? Who gets to decide? We don't know. We don't know. These are big questions, right? This one's pretty fun. This is one of the indictments, right? Colin Rugg writes, breaking, arrest warrant has been issued for Donald Trump. He has until August 25th to surrender. He's got to surrender, right? Surrender for what exactly? In part, for telling people to watch TV. Looks like we're all going to prison, he says. On or about, this is one of the reasons they're arresting him, right? He says, on or about the 3rd of December, January 2020, Donald John Trump caused to be tweeted from the Twitter account, Real Donald Trump, Georgia hearings now on OANN. Amazing. This was an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. So he said, go watch it on TV. Go. Indictment. Yeah, that's crime. Don't do it. So, and here's the good news, everyone. He's actually got to surrender now. Trump has to surrender, and they're going to give him a mugshot. They're going to give him a mugshot finally, right? We're going to get what we always wanted, the mugshot. So the sheriff says, right, that he will have his mugshot taken when he's arrested in Georgia as a matter of standard protocol. Sticks, Hex, and Hammer says, makes me jovial. Finally, the meme to end all memes, and probably earn Trump more cash on one effing t-shirt design than every other candidate will get in the whole quarter, right? And now I think that is indeed true. So one of the things that I see from these, just the idea of having Trump with a mugshot, I think anyway, one of the things I knew when I saw him in court the first time he was arrested, when it was still a little shocking, right? The first time they arrested him, I think it was for the lying. No. I think it was for criticizing the woman who lied about him sexually assaulting her, the Carroll case, right? I think it's that one. And I remembered seeing, just the idea of him being in that prison or in the police station did have a weird effect on me that I didn't know I would have, right? I thought it'd be funny, watch it. In the end, I actually felt personally a little bit imprisoned. Now, of course, it's not true, right? I wasn't really in prison at all. I was at home. But something that the psychological effect of seeing it happen made Trump's words that he's often said, right? They're coming after you, but they got to get through me first, right? That whole frame he sets up, which is sort of true, made it absolutely true. And the mugshot here that I think that people are thinking is a good idea, to get a mugshot of Trump, right? I think it will have the same effect, like the COVID shots, like the mug shots, right? That's our theme today. The mug shot and the COVID shot give US or us a shot at the money shot. And what is the money shot? In this case, the money shot is really a shot at changing the money, right? Our shot at changing the money, which is here and now. And for the reasons we're going to talk about today, right? We got a shot. We have an opportunity. With all of the public trust lost after COVID, with what we're seeing in the political scene in America right now, we are in a very difficult time in order to sort of predict what's coming next. I keep saying that predictions are becoming easier and easier, which is what I think. But of course, everything can go crazy. And there's other people who are really smart who have other predictions that are different from mine. And one of them is Cernovich, right? So Cernovich has been talking a lot about the Trump indictment, what it means. Here's what he says, and he gives a prediction, right? He says, the regime is no longer concerned with legitimacy. Raw power is all they need. They have it, they'll use it. It didn't have to be this way. In 2006, he won and didn't use power. Evildoers had no need to fear retribution. The strong do as they will. The weak suffer what they must. And he goes on to talk a little bit about the situation in America right now being more like Russia in 1917 with the Bolsheviks preparing the ground for widespread murder of both the Tsar family, the royal family, as well as any white Russian who was fighting against the Red Russians, right? Of course, there was a war at the time. And he says, right, we are in the early stages where Bolsheviks are shoring up power. The Cold War analogies don't hold up. We are in the Tsar and his family are massacred phase of history. And he shared a really great, I guess you can say, process. Let me just get it here, which is what he said was the, how do I not have it? I got it. Yeah, here it is. So what he says is the Genocide Watch, a nonpartisan group that tracks global genocides, has a warning system. And he's been talking about what happened in Rwanda along these lines, right? Where are conservatives and Trump supporters? Where are conservatives and Trump supporters, according to this? And he says the 10 stages look like this. It's number 1, classification. Number 2, symbolization. 3, discrimination. 4, dehumanization. So that's like the when you get to the deplorables and the maggots, right? That's where you get to that sort of dehumanization. 5, organization. 6, polarization. Not hard to find in our system. 7, preparation, right? 8, persecution. 9, extermination. 10, denial. And so he says that this sort of, process has gone a few times, and he asked his audience, where do you think we are? Most people say that prosecution part, right, just before extermination. So like step 8 of 10, right, getting close. And that's what he was predicting there. Now, it is one of the options, right? And I'm not saying Cernovich is wrong for bringing it up. I'm not trying to argue what Cernovich is predicting here. Just my prediction is different. So I'm going to tell you why my prediction is different. And that is one of there's a non-zero chance, and it is one that you should worry about, right? Cernovich brings it up because it sounds like a real worry, and I think it is, right? There is a possibility. But I'll explain why it can't happen, why we are not in 1917 Russia now. So go back to the sovereign individual when it starts giving, predictions for the time we're in. And they use an example of Flint, Michigan in the 1930s, as well as the Ford and as well as the GM factories that were there. And what happened was a strike happened, right? So the staff moved into the factories and just made themselves at home and stopped producing cars. Something like 100 cars were produced in all of America during the time of the strike, and it lasted quite a while. And the idea here being that the means of production, because you were dealing with physical things, were very easy to sort of usurp from the point of view of collective bargaining and the unions. And in the end, you needed government to come in and sort of negotiate an end to the strike so that industrial capacity would be strong again. So he ends up, the writers of The Sovereign Individual take this anecdote to frame up a story of government's role in our lives then and compare it to now. And then, and so the constant within then and now and forever, and the reason why we have governments in the first place, is this balance between extortion and protection, right? So just like the mafia, just like criminality, right? It's exactly the same formula. And what he was saying then was that the means of production before, because these were large physical objects that could be taken, they had to be protected, and therefore there was a desire to have a state strong enough to get involved in this physical infrastructure. So he explains it like this. Throughout history, violence has been a dagger pointed at the heart of the economy. As Thomas Schelling shrewdly put it, the power to hurt, to destroy things that somebody treasures, to inflict pain and grief is a kind of bargaining power. Not easy to use, but used often. In the underworld, it is the basis for blackmail, extortion, and kidnapping. In the commercial world, for boycotts, strikes, and lockouts. It is often the basis for discipline, civilian and military, and gods use it to exact discipline. A government's capacity to tax ultimately depends upon the same vulnerabilities as do private shakedowns and extortion. Although we tend not to perceive it in these terms, the proportion of assets that are controlled and spent coercively through crime and government provides a rough measure of the mega-political balance between extortion and protection. If technology made the protection of assets difficult, crime would tend to be widespread. And so would union activity. Under some such circumstances, protection by government would therefore command a premium. Taxes would be high. Where taxes are lower and wage rates in the workplace are determined by market forces rather than through political intervention or coercion, technology has tipped the balance toward protection. The technological imbalance between extortion and protection reached an extreme at the end of the third quarter of the 20th century. In some advanced Western societies, more than a majority of resources were commandeered by governments. The income of a large faction of the population were either set by fiat or determined under the influence of coercion, such as by strikes and threats of violence in other forms. The welfare state and the trade union were by both artifacts of technology, sharing the spoils of the triumph of power over efficiency in the 20th century. They could not have existed if not for technologies, military and civilian, that raised the returns to violence during the industrial age. The capacity to create assets has always entailed some vulnerability to extortion. The greater the assets created or possessed, the higher the price to be paid in one way or the other. So then he goes in to talk about the mathematics of protection, right? Now the dagger of violence could soon be blunted. Information technology promises to alter dramatically the balance between protection and extortion, making protection of assets in many cases much easier and extortion much more difficult. So he goes on to this, explaining the logic of violence, right, in this context. So talking about how the issues that were exploited by people in history, and why these violent acts were even possible, because there was sort of a collective belief that this was the way to get safe, this was the way to get rich, this was the way for everyone to do better. And as long as everyone's doing better, we went along that road. We took that track, right? So he says, under these circumstances, right, the competition to employ violence in the world reached its final stage with the appearance of the nation state. There is no hint in his works that he anticipated microprocessing or believed that he's talking about Frederick Lane here. While Lane did not foresee the technological revolutions now unfolding, his insights into the various stages of monopolization of violence in the past were so lucid that they have obvious application in the emerging information revolution. Lane's study of the violent medieval world attracted his attention to issues that conventional economists and historians have tended to forget. Right? So here's his quote, right? Every economic enterprise needs and pays for protection. Protection against the destruction or armed seizure of its capital and the forceful disruption of its labor. In highly organized societies, the production of this utility protection is one of the functions of the special association or enterprise called government. Indeed, one of the most distinctive characteristics of government is their attempt to create law and order by using force themselves and by controlling through various means the use of force by others, right? So we are in the closing of an age here, is what in the sovereign individual they argue here, simply because in order to even want these things protected and to pay for this protection, you have to have the wealth that is simultaneous to that, right? You've got to have the money. You've got to be providing for people. You've got to have people buying into the system, because net, it brings people more health, more wealth, more safety, more security. Do we have that situation in America anymore? And are the only assets that we require, do we need the government to protect them? Well, of course, with Bitcoin, that's not the case. You don't need anyone to protect it. The network itself protects it. So the logic of violence argument at the heart of Bitcoin is starting to become one of the more important qualities of Bitcoin. It wasn't really that important, right? Remember years ago when we were all just starting in Bitcoin, this was something that I had to deal with all the time, right? You'd be talking about Bitcoin in 2013, 2014, people would say, "Oh, that's for the poor, shitty countries, right? We're in America and Canada. We are rich. We don't have any banking trouble, right? We don't have any risk to our assets. We can use our legal system. We can use this. We can use that, right?" How naive we were. We had none of those things. And as we wake up to that, as we wake up to this idea, as we wake up to the idea that we're nowhere near as safe as we were, right? Look at the drug situation in America right now. Look at the violence on the streets. It's unbelievable, right? Just look at, and then look at the capacity, right? We have apparently the strongest government in the history of the world in America, right? Well, El Salvador got rid of drugs, right? What was it hard? Was it complicated? No, it wasn't. It was really easy. What about the incredibly powerful nation, the strongest nation? How did they do it? Afghanistan. You know what Afghanistan did recently? They wiped out the opium trade. It's gone, right? The Americans left, and surprisingly, wow, how did that happen? The opium trade is gone. You ask many American soldiers what they were doing in Afghanistan, and they'll tell you guarding the fucking opium. Right? That's like, I don't have any proof of that. I've just heard a bunch of soldiers over time on Twitter and here and there say that's what they did over in Afghanistan. They were guards for the opium. Right? Now, I don't know that for sure, right? It could have just been fake news. It could have been an anecdote or whatever. But now it's finished, right? The Taliban said, we don't want to be drug dealers anymore. I don't care about the money, right? It's finished. Apparently, now I don't have proof of this either. Zero Hedge published a thing. Taliban's massively successful opium eradication raises questions about what the US was doing all along. How could they do it and we couldn't, right? How could they do it and we couldn't? Now, again, on this point of view of like being wealthy and being a rich state that can enforce these things, well, Minnesota, Jevi can confirm this for us, right? In Minnesota, an entire town's police force yesterday resigned, and there's no one who's going to do it. No one who's going to show up to be a police officer in Minnesota. In Minnesota, nobody, right? Nobody. George Floyd's home. Who's going there? Who's going there? Because remember, what you've been told you have to believe, right, is that what you saw with the George Floyd thing was murder. And with the two people that have been convicted, right, what you have to imagine is that Asian guy and Derek Chauvin planned on murdering him. That was their plan, right? They woke up that day and said, I'm going to murder that. I'm going to murder someone, right? And, the reasonable person thing they put in and all that stuff, right? But that's why you have this, right? It's like the Daniel Penny thing in New York, right? Who's going to stop and help someone now? And what good Samaritan is getting involved in an altercation in an American public space anymore? It's not happening. It's not going to happen, right? Because there's no security. There's no more safety. They have zero prospects, the chief of police said in Minnesota. No police lining up in this town, right? So that's finished, right? Then you get the federal government at the same time saying in San Francisco, just a shithole these days, right? A complete shithole. San Francisco, the other day, there's, of course, a lot of federal offices in San Francisco. Well, the federal employees in San Francisco have been told by the federal government to not show up at work anymore because it's too dangerous. Here's what they say, right? This is from Betty Yu. Some San Francisco federal employees have been told to continue working remotely due to the open-air drug market outside the building. Many that come in are getting escorted in and out of the federal building on 7th and Mission. So San Francisco, the federal government, right? This is not, random people. The federal government is telling its own workers, this city is not safe. Like, you can't go to work, right? You can't go to work. So they can't get police officers to show up for work. They can't stop the drugs, but Afghanistan can, right? You get Kennedy, right? For example, Kennedy the other day talking about what's going on at the wall. He's done a documentary. So Robert F. Kennedy goes down, talks about the humanitarian crisis that we see on the streets in America, right? And says, this is a heartbreaking humanitarian crisis. I was a person who ridiculed Trump's wall, he says. And now I've been down there. And I've talked to everybody down there and have a different position. We cannot survive with what's happening there now. The Mexican drug cartels are literally running U.S. immigration policy, not the president of the United States, right? That's what he says. That's what Kennedy says about what's going on in the United States. So is this gang who's arresting the former president keeping you safe? Not really. Are they keeping you rich? Well, Wall Street Silver has been sharing these compilation videos, mostly of Canadians who, I have said many times, are the dumbest people in this whole collectivity. And they're just the first to get the shit end of the stick, right? What's coming to America is very similar to what we already experience in Canada. And these videos are just the saddest things you're ever going to see, right? And you gotta listen to them and hear them out. But they go on, I'm a nice person and I did all these nice things and good things. I did all the right things. And now I'm basically homeless. I make $30,000 a year or something and I can't afford shit and I should just die. Right. There's compilations of people making TikTok videos like, yeah, being alive, like it's kind of out of my price range in Canada right now. all these kinds of jokes, right? So Wall Street Silver sharing just tons of compilation videos about how hard it is, how expensive groceries are. It is really bad in Canada for people who are stuck in the system, right? And that is coming to America and is already there. Like, we can't even really differentiate between these two things, right? It's already there. The hard times for Americans are already there. So you can't go to work in San Francisco, and we don't really even know what sense of security and freedom and all of those things that we even have anymore, because so much of it is in doubt when you see someone like Trump getting arrested and indicted. Again, it makes individuals like myself feel like what Trump said all those years, right? They got to get through me first, is true. Even if it wasn't true, it doesn't matter anymore. It becomes true. And you start imagining yourself in that same position, right? Um, and then you get, for example, go back to COVID, right? This is from a sitting US Senator, Ron Johnson, the great senator, I believe, of Tennessee. Am I wrong? Is he from Tennessee? I'm not sure. This is what he says, right? This is what he says. Now, I don't really agree exactly with what he says, but here's what he says about COVID. This was all pre-planned by an elite group of people, Event 201. This is very concerning in terms of what continues to be planned for our losses of freedom. We're up against a very, very powerful group of people. So he's talking here about the same people that, um, probably the same people that killed Bobby Kennedy's dad, probably the same people that killed his uncle, probably the same people that are assassinating the name of Donald Trump because it's too messy to do the Kennedy plan on him, right? So talking about these people, this deep state organization, and in this case, right, this is a sitting U.S. senator more or less saying that we are an occupied country. We are occupied, right? So you take that into context, right? We can't have police, drugs rampant, poverty spreading everywhere. Even the federal government admits that it's not safe. Yet, at the same time, the El Salvador and Afghani governments are completely able to eradicate drugs from their countries. All of this combined reminds us that the government itself in America is undergoing a huge radical shift in the way people perceive it. So go back to what Cernovich said, right? Cernovich said this logic of violence thing. Now, go back to what happened in Russia with the czars. They were leading the country down a pretty poor path, right? Russia was not rich at the time of the revolution at all, right? Not even close to rich. And we didn't have any technology like we have today, and the circumstances were quite different. And when you go back in time and think about this promise the communists made, right? Of course, remember the logic of communism. The fallacy of communism has always been that that wealth is a zero-sum game, right? And this is what Marx was able to convince people of, and Lenin was able to convince people of, that more or less someone's wealth is only there because you're poor, right? So it's about redistribution. It's about the zero-sum game of money. Now, rich capitalist Americans have long understood the fallacy of this. Steve Jobs, I think, understood that his wealth was based on the fact that he gave the most useful tool ever invented, not ever, at least the most useful tool of the 20th century, which became widely accessible and widely available to people and more or less solved illiteracy on Earth, right? Like touchscreens are the answer to global illiteracy. So we solved global illiteracy. And Steve Jobs got really rich, right? He didn't steal from anyone, right? He made everyone richer, and then made himself rich, right? So if global literacy increases, then people are better off, right? They're healthier and wealthier. And by making everyone healthier and wealthier, of course he got rich, of course, right? We should never lament the wealth that Steve Jobs was able to get in his life, other than his wife is spending the money on the Atlantic, which is spilling or spending ink on convincing you that wealth is a zero-sum game. So when you take what Cernovich said and you apply this logic of violence we're not exactly in the same world. Now, what he's saying could be true, right? We could be setting ourselves up for mass extermination for anyone who believed, Trump was not a criminal and Bitcoin is great and all of these things. They got to get it. They got to kill all of them, right? But that's the problem with that point of view. They'd have to keep going, right? You can't just stop at Trump. You're going to have to go get Vivek right now, right? Vivek is saying the same things. You have to go get Kennedy, right? You have to get Elon, right? You're going to have to get Elon. Elon, I don't think is playing in this game, right? He's not playing this game. So you're going to have to kill a lot of people, right? Or everyone starts realizing that what's going on there isn't going to make them healthy, isn't going to make them wealthy, isn't going to make them safe, right? And we're starting to come to that realization. Seeing Trump behind bars, seeing Trump in a mugshot is going to help solidify that in people's mind. And it's going to help shake more people out of their delusion that these groups are actually there to help you. They're not, right? Exactly as the sovereign individual underlines, the extortion protection balance is so out of whack that you're going to get more from fighting against the system than you are from joining the system. Because what do you get from joining the system at this point, right? Not much. There's not much out there, and not much coming, right? What else is coming? The formula that America would have to follow in order to get where it's going would be like China, right? It would have to be like China, not like Russia, like China. It would have to wipe out opposition more than it already is doing, and would require a amount of spoil and wins to be shared with the winning side, right? Wealth to be shared with the winning side. Well, not even China can do that anymore. It looks like China is falling apart. The Wall Street Journal writing today, China's economic and social contract is fraying. So a few things have happened in China just in the past 24 hours. So one of the largest shadow banks is missing payments and looks like it's not going to make it, right? And this is a huge, huge thing. Trillions of dollars under management, completely captured now by the real estate industry, in the sense that they made all of these risky real estate bets because you had to, right? They're all trying to squeeze out whatever alpha they can over in China. And these guys didn't invent this game of real estate speculation. They got involved kind of late even, the shadow banking group, and now it looks like they're going to be finished. Zhongrong, I guess they're called, International Trust, missed payments on dozens of products and has no immediate plan to make clients whole. At the same time, you had a risk of more devaluation of the yuan versus the US dollar. And finally, in China, so three big things happened yesterday, right? You had this shadow bank thing, you had the exchange rate piece, and then finally you had the numbers of youth unemployment, right? Censored. They normally publish this data. They did not this time, which continues in our own predictions that the demographics situation in China are way worse than anyone's telling you, and that some people are saying this could be the end. That's what people are saying, right? It could be the end. Jonathan Cheng writes about it. The economic news from China this summer has been grim, but the headline figures, bad as they are, may be hinting at more fundamental issue. Beijing has failed to convince households their financial future is secure in the post-COVID era. This is the exact same situation that they mentioned in the Sovereign Individual. It's the exact same situation Americans find themselves with, right? Since the COVID shot, now with the mugshot, no one in America believes that their financial future is secure with these people in tow. Now, there are some people so brainwashed, not living off of entitlements, living off of welfare, or whatever it is, right? They don't really matter, but there are people who are still getting whatever it is they have from the system as it is, but they're not enough, right? And it hasn't been that way for a while. So you had Ben Shapiro, right, talking about these indictments and saying the following: whatever you think of the Trump indictments, one thing is for certain. The glass has now been broken over and over again. Political opponents can be targeted by legal enemies. Running for office now carries the legal risk of going to jail on all sides. But the good news of this, right, and Nick Carter commented on this, but didn't give you the good news. He said he's right. Young folks entering politics this generation will be max cynical, completely comfortable with lawfare and raw expression of power. Norms have changed completely. Spain, 1930s type environment, right? Yes, maybe, but also just worst people, right? We've already got low IQ people there. We've already got Fetterman. We got to go lower. We need less intelligent people because we don't want them doing shit, right? If we're in a competition, as we are, we don't want good human capital going there. One of my major, um, um, I guess, oracle systems, my predictive systems around Bitcoin are simply this, right? I watch for human capital as it comes into Bitcoin. And the minute you see it touch a certain industry and the best people in that industry join the Bitcoin movement, you're understanding something and you're able to predict where things are headed by these new people coming, by this new human capital infusion, right? So politics were one of the first industries affected by Bitcoin. And that's where I came in, right? In 2012, when I first heard about Bitcoin, you had to understand you were getting a bunch of people who were disillusioned with the Ron Paul thing falling apart, no real opposition to Obama, no real political discourse. People like myself gave up on the political process and the political system the minute we saw Bitcoin for what it was, right? And that's why you had so many people coming out of that Ron Paul world of 08 to 2012 that immediately jumped into Bitcoin, not as another thing in their political career, as an abandonment of politics as a vehicle of change in society. So the Wall Street people who came next came for different reasons, right? They came for not as sentimental reasons. They came to make money and have real risk, not to be a part of a porno film of risk where oh, don't worry if you lose, we'll just fucking give you another Viagra, right? Don't sweat it, it's fine. So the no risk, no real sex porno of risk-free Wall Street caused the people who want to fuck for real and have real risk to come to Bitcoin, right? So these are if you're going to get traders, if you're going to get people who understand risk management, those are the ones you want. You don't want the ones who don't want to fuck. You want the ones who fuck, right? That's what you want. That's what you want. You don't want people masturbating. You want the real ones. And that's what Bitcoin got, right? So that there's less incentive to go in politics is right in line with the world we want to see. I would be more worried if there was all kinds of power hungry people that were joining the Democrats to prosecute people like Trump, right? That would be a bigger problem, but we don't have that problem. What Nick is saying here, which I think is a positive thing, right, is just these stupid people that you're not even going to get them, right? You're going to get even lower quality. You're going to get more Fettermans, Fetterman 2024 all the way, right? So, I just, the other option, I guess, is that, and this comes from Bruce Fenton, and this is about the type of brainwashing that's out there. But I think this is still in line with this human capital migration. This is the other thing you have to worry about, right? So it's the ability of the security and wealth to be provided by the corrupt system, which would empower them like it did in the Bolshevik time, right? They were offering them mansions. They were offering them everything that they could steal physically, right? The other way is to brainwash people so thoroughly that they can't really think for themselves anymore. Bruce Fenton gives an example. He says, I spoke with a well-credentialed and intelligent science-driven academic who grew up in a conventional upbringing and believing that there were two genders until his late 30s, just a few years ago. In the last 3 years, he has been completely convinced that men who pretend to be women are actually literally women, and trans women are women, deserving to be in women's spaces and sports. He is convinced of this completely and feels those who disagree are worthy of being angry at. How does an intelligent and highly educated person make a 180-degree shift on thousands of years of human understanding about such a key and basic issue in such a short time? How does someone make such a radical shift in belief without debate, pushback, or critical thinking? Cernovich answers, being a good student requires you to be able to absorb new information from an authority figure to get good grades. This is why elite opinion shifts quickly and with sincerity. They do believe this stuff, right? Now, what I'll say about this is that that capacity to completely hoodwink someone is also going away because the capacity of the media is not nearly what it was. It can't saturate your brain like it once did. There are so many more places to get out of the void, out of that hypnotic situation. Now, we don't need everybody. We just need the best, right? We don't need everybody. We just need the best. If we get the best, if we get the people who want to fuck for real, if we get the people who believe change isn't going to come through politics and have already embraced other things, if we get people who realize, for example, the energy sector, with all of its weird incentives, attachment to the military industrial complex, if we get that out of the way, right, and the best people make the best energy systems because, for example, Bitcoin can help fix the financing of energy, then you're going to get, and that's where I predict things are headed next, of course, right? Where I see things going next is the energy people jumping in 2 feet first, and we're already getting the top human capital peeling out into our industry for the reasons that we all understand and know. Energy finance is broken. Bitcoin fixes it. So again, what I'll say here is that this idea of the top students and all that stuff not gonna last, right? My kids go to homeschool, pods, more and more people embracing homeschool for those reasons, right? Don't want to create a kid who just knows how to make their teacher feel good, right? So, and then, if the Chinese system is viable, you're going to need wealth systems to help, or in America, you're going to need some form of wealth system in order to support this brainwashing apparatus, right? So in China, they have been until now able to do that because of this manipulation of the economy. They've just released a bunch of liquidity into their environment because that's what they needed. They need more spending. They've lowered interest rates, right, in China, but none of it's going to work. They lowered interest rates yesterday, surprise lowering of interest rates, right? That was one of the stories about the exchange rate. That's how they lowered it. So in America, we'll need something. Well, that's what people are worried about with this world coin and with CBDCs and that same thing that Kennedy has been warning us about, right? The public, the corrupt merger of public and corporate power, right? CBDCs or the WorldCoin orb. Well, did you see all the WorldCoin orb scams, right? That for example, Jameson Law bringing this one up last week. WorldCoin had 10 plus locations in India where people could get their iris scanned and get verified to receive 25 WorldCoins. But as of now, only Bangalore's were listed on the WorldCoin website. What happened? Rumor is it that crypto literate folks were bringing hundreds of naive people to orbs to receive the $25 airdrop. These middlemen would give $10 or $20 to the person getting scanned and then keep the rest for themselves, right? And everyone's like, who could have predicted this, right? Is this system going to be the one that, everyone joins, all the people who want real risk, all the smart people who don't think politics are going to be the actual vehicle for change, all the smart people who want to fix energy finance, right? Are they going to join WorldCoin now? No, right? It was always a low IQ thing. It was always dumb, right? We knew that. With what's going on between China's economy having trouble, America's economy having trouble, America failing to keep people safe, America failing to keep people rich, the ability to sustain the status quo in America is sinking quick, right? And that's why you even hear RFK now on that Tucker Carlson podcast talking openly about public hangings. What he said, the following thing here, right? When he says that it's a hanging offense, what went on with COVID in America. It's a hanging offense, right? So RFK getting into space drops the way I've said he might. And then, he also said something else really interesting in the Tucker Carlson interview, where he made a confession about the CIA and something Mike Pompeo said to him about the CIA, right? And so this is where I see most Americans headed as far as understanding what forces have been running America over this time. And so this is RFK Jr. saying, Pompeo looked him dead in the eye and said, the entire upper echelon of that agency, the CIA, is made up of individuals who do not believe in the democratic institutions of the USA. That's a quote he said, right? So again, this idea that America without being able to peddle in health and wealth, is going to be able to use power to kill everybody or take control and exterminate the people who are outside of the point of view, is becoming more and more limited, right? And I don't think it's possible. So the point in the end, I think, is, bring on the money shot, bring on the mug shot, bring on more COVID shots, right? All of it helps change the logic of violence and helps, I think, drive people more and more towards an asset that they don't need the government to secure. Bitcoin, obviously, right? So we're here. We're at the moment in time where more and more people are either going to wake up or they're going to have to kill people. Right? It's not about wake up and don't die. You're going to have to kill people too, right? You don't get to just say, oh, you're wrong, right? You've got to not just be okay with Trump going to jail. What's going to happen very quickly is, you say Trump's got to go to jail, then Vivek, like our Plan B talk yesterday, like Vivek's in second place. He's as effective, so you're gonna have to kill him too. Right? You don't get to stop. You don't get to stop at one and any of that stuff. So they got to deal with all these people, right? And these people are both Vivek and RFK talking about this China situation as well. And about rapprochement with China, right? Not about further pushing them away and forcing them into the same group with Russia and all these things. So, look, we're getting on a major realignment right now, and I'm all for the mugshot. Let's get the mugshot going. We love it. We love the mugshot, right? All right, let's see what's going on here. What's the over/under on total indictments? Well, I think we're almost at the end. I don't know how many more they have. This one was pretty sloppy, so I don't know what they're going to hope, right? Innocent until proven guilty is now. How do we not catch you sooner? It's strange. I never cared about Trump before, but now I want him to win and watch all the broken brains lose their minds. That honestly, that's that. The only reason I do want Trump win is just to watch the reaction. I think Vivek or RFK can clean this thing up better than Trump, and I really just want Trump to be able to retire, as much as I love him. But the reason I want him to win is just, it's just going to be too funny. Like, I just want to laugh, right? I can't help it. It would just, it would be so funny. Do you really think all politicians can't be persecuted this way? Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, like, okay, they're gonna have to go after Tulsi next, right? They're gonna have to. Like, Tulsi's not gonna shut her mouth, right? So I don't think you can. I think they get one shot at this. It's Trump. And it took years to persuade people about how evil Trump is. And Trump is asking for this fourth indictment. He says, one more and I'm going to win. So I think Trump's instincts are right now. It doesn't mean they're not going to keep thieving and cheating and stealing, but look at the effort that's being expended to do this to Trump. And every bit of it is destroying the powers that are doing it more than it's destroying Trump. This is, the current system is not anti-fragile. It's the opposite. They're spending all of their stability on getting rid of Trump, and they can't peddle in that anymore. They're not getting stronger, right? Trump's getting stronger. Trump should make some mugshots before they take the real mugshot and make them an NFT. And that would make the steal fund. Yeah, I mean, he's got enough money for the court costs. Huru, we miss you, man. Been a long time, too long, Huru. We miss you, man. Feels weird catching up without coffee. I'm gonna take a sip of coffee. I'm sorry you stopped. You can drink anything here, right? I needed that. San Francisco is back to the Wild West, indeed. Survival of the fittest is real. Let the devil take the hindmost. Doc Blockchain, I will disagree with you. My definition of what makes humans humans is that we are, and why I've always been against the concept of the theory of evolution for humans, is that it's not survival of the fittest. My brother is a handicapped teacher. I mean, Down syndrome people, I think, are doing great, right? So there you go. I'm animals live by survival of the fittest, not humans. We do not. Now I agree that let the devil take the hindmost. Yeah. There's we can't. I used to believe we could save everyone with Bitcoin. COVID taught me that's too optimistic. There's some people that are just getting the UBI and that's it. Like, I don't know what to say. You want the security that these people give you. You got it. Not much we can do about it. Wisconsin, most of them are controlled opposition, but yeah. Yeah, Huru, you've missed a bit of the. There's one piece you're missing here, Huru. From so we have got our own inside joke about how the executions are going to go down, and they're going to be space drops. These are the Nuremberg 2 trials. We're going to drop people from space. Tom Cruise is going to host, right? Tom Cruise is going to be like, today we are doing a halo jump with Fauci. Fauci, what do you have to say? And then they're going to fly right up to the border of space, and then they drop them. We're going to have targets, hang time. There's going to be betting markets. But basically, the point is you've got to make a show and you've got to compete. This ain't you don't get to put them in a back room in the internet era, and then they're dead. We're supposed to believe you just gave them a needle or something, right? On public hangings, it's not long enough, right? We've got to stretch it out a bit because you got to compete. So space drops hosted by Tom Cruise. They're going to be great. And there's going to be betting markets. I'm going to be betting. It's going to be on Barstool Sports. Dave Portnoy is going to create a market around Fauci hang time. It's going to be great. We're just going to love it, right? So, Huru, just to catch you up, space drops are the thing, and probably the likely way we should settle some scores here. Not a great boost of confidence for the BRICS meeting next week. No, the BRICS is finished, man. What did I tell you, guys? BRICS was always it's already served its purpose. It's got a bunch of countries who have overtly said we're sick of the petrodollar and the US dollar. That's all Bitcoiners needed. All we needed was the world market to say there's an appetite for something other than US dollar for settlement. We got that, right? Now, my prediction for Bitcoin to come up the middle was always that BRICS failed. BRICS was never going to work. It's not going to work. It's impossible. It is a shitcoin made by people who can't make who have done nothing but fail in making a shitcoin. It's like one of these lowest, you're only as strong as your weakest member type analogies, right? You're only as strong as your weakest member. It's like LLM programming. It's like programming the AI, right? The AI can't be smarter than the stupid people it's trained on. It can't. It's not possible. If you have a bunch of people that speak like morons and the AI is training off of their moronic uptalk and it's going to be absolutely mentally handicapped. And a lot of the AI is mentally handicapped for those reasons. So they're not going to be able to. A bunch of financial morons cannot collectively create financial genius. They stay morons. It doesn't matter how many you put into a pile, right? You can stack up 2 billion morons. It is still going to be moronic. It's not additive, right? One moron plus one moron does not equal one smart person. One moron plus one moron is just 2 morons. That's it. There's nothing extra, right? They don't combine. It's not Power Rangers. You know what I mean? There's no magic. Put them together and they're stronger. Nothing's happening like that. It's just extra stupid. That's it. That's all they get. So that's the good news, right? Daniel talking about human capital, energy people, then healthcare people. Yeah, healthcare will be a little later because they are really dumb. You know, they're sort of like the system is fine type of people. They're too busy. You know, these doctors are too busy, so they don't really know. There you go. He's right. But then again, Americans do prefer their life. Yeah, I don't mind an electric chair, Huru. But again, space dropping is what I want to see. I want some space dropping. I can smell the golden age in there, can't you? The mugshot is going to be one of the great symbols of the golden age, right? Steve, they've jumped the shark. Oh boy, did they jump the shark. Oh boy, did they jump the shark. Oh boy. Rand Moore, Nolan up early, catch the show, West Coast racist. Oh no, Rand Moore, you got up so early. You must be such a supremacist. Did you get up and just like pray to Hitler? How did you get up so early? Jeez. Trump will win, Jumper DCS World. I think so. Yeah, I think he will. Morning, guys and gals. Indeed, good morning. I don't want to live in a clown world anymore. Yeah, well, Jumper DCS, look, it's you gotta ignore a bit of this while we change, right? Huru talking about the space drops. I'm getting the oh no, what a bummer. I'm getting an info banner. I made YouTube mad. I guess because I put the COVID shot in the title. I only did it because it was like shot, you know, shots. Same here, Catacombs. Yeah, I guess. What are you gonna do? I don't think I'm getting any strikes or anything like that. You know, no synergy amongst morons. Unfortunately, Steve, one moron plus one moron is just two morons. That's it. It doesn't equal a smart person. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. Are you familiar with the superdelegate system for the Democrats? Yeah. Yes, he can, Miles. Yes, I am familiar with the superdelegate system. So basically, there's enough free votes or discretionary votes in the Democrat system that they can push out the primary folks. So there you go. Yeah, it's a very corrupt system. I'm not, you know, I think they're going to cheat RFK right into the ground, but that doesn't mean he can't win, right? They tried. The Republicans tried it with Trump, but it won't matter. In a sense, just having him around talking is enough of a problem, and he's already enough of a problem for them. Like, and I think they're becoming more and more attuned to the idea that he has a path to victory. And he does. The path to victory is very clear because there's enough Democrats out there that want to be done with clown world too, right? Not all of them are hyped up on what they're not all motivated by what Biden said. Some of them just hate Trump, right? Which I get, which we all get, right? Trump, again, you always got to give people who hate Trump space, especially if you feel like they were bullied when they were a kid or a teenager. Those people can't see Trump for anything besides a bully because he is a bully, right? I love him, but he's a bully. Admit it. We got to admit it, right? And you know, the bully thing doesn't bother me, but I get how it would bother people. I always have. If you can't look at Trump, I'm not going to push him on you. I've always been that way because it's not a thing you can convince some people of, right? But that's not enough to solidify the system. It's enough to make people persuaded to listen to the brainwashing and the lies about Trump, but those don't just extend right to RFK. They got to do it again with RFK, and you can't really charge that gun very easily, right? Yeah, he's a bully and the asshole we needed. That's exactly why I love him, right? I accept him for who he is. He's a bully. Now, there's a weird thing, not a weird thing, I guess a very predictable thing in a lot of people's minds. If they've been bullied when they were a kid, especially, a bully to them is the worst thing in the world. It is Hitler. So I get it. I don't think we're ever going to be in a world where everyone can love Trump, right? Because he's a bully. Like I don't want necessarily a bully as the president, but in the times that we had in 2016, he was the perfect person. We needed a bully then, right? We needed a bully to stand up to all this shit, right? Absolutely, Jumper. Yeah. No. Trump is a character, and everybody knows it, right? He plays a character. The real Trump has a lot of honor and principles, it seems to me. And indeed, like, I don't believe he'll ever lay a hand on RFK. RFK treats him with respect, and that's all you need to do with Trump. If you treat Trump like a human being with respect, he will do the same to you. He's a very polite person in that way, right? As long as you give him the respect he believes he deserves, and I think he does deserve, he's cool. All right. Yeah, I agreed. Like, DeSantis got bullied by him because DeSantis fucked around and was scheming and scamming and got punched in the face for it. Right. Trump is not afraid to punch you in the face because he's a bully. Right. Now, he's not a weak bully. He's not a person who goes after someone because they're weak. It's not that kind of a bully. Right. 100%. I've always noticed, as long as you treat Trump fairly, it doesn't matter if you're his enemy or his opposition. If you give him respect, he'll give it back. Always, always. I've never seen an example ever in my life where he went out of his way to hit someone in the face who didn't hit him first. I'll always defend Trump on that, right? Yeah, he has a great counterpunch. Absolutely. Yeah. He's not, in my mind, he's not looking for targets, right? If someone pops their head up, he doesn't hesitate. He punches back. It's just it. He just punches you right back in the face. That's it. No contemplation, no thought. Punch me, I punch you. Very simple stuff, right? New Yorker, I mean, is a New Yorker, right? He's an absolute, total 100% New Yorker. Total and 100%. I loved New York for that reason. I loved living there. Everything about that vibe I was down with it. He has to go renew his mortgage. Oh, poor you Canadians. Yeah, I forgot about that. Oh yeah, I wanted to just even remind everyone of that. I did say the other day that I love living in Montreal and Montreal's great and all this stuff. I do. But I don't really live here. I just want to make that clear. I wouldn't pay taxes in this shithole. And if I was living here permanently, I would have a lot of problems with this place. It's only good. The way I do it is fine, right? But I wouldn't live here and put my life. I don't think I can. I don't think I'm even capable. I do Rumble, for God's sakes. I think it's illegal. I think what I'm doing here is illegal in Canada, if I'm not mistaken, right? Real shithole country. Trump can. Yeah, no. Trump's IQ and brain power, and it's world class, right? He can execute long range plans. He's the absolute alpha, super male, right? Like, just great, no doubt about it. He can do a ton. I think he goes down as one of the greatest one-term presidents in the history of America. One of the greatest presidents in the history of America. I think that title is possible. I don't want him to go again, right? I'd rather Vivek or RFK. But again, if he wins, of course, I'm going to be so happy, and I'm going to party, and I'm going to watch with just the most entertaining, just watching people lose it. It's worth it just for that. It's the most entertaining outcome, so it's the most likely, right? All right, team, I got to do a Spaces with Bitcoin Magazine at the top of this hour. We'll be talking about Bitcoin Amsterdam and CBDCs. Come join us on X Twitter. Do they call it Spaces still? Well, I'll be doing a X Spaces on X Twitter at 10 a.m. Eastern. So the top of this hour, in about 50 minutes. RFK won't get the evangelical vote. No, he doesn't need it. He just needs Dems. He just needs the Dems. The Dems want his advantages. Dems don't want Trump. He doesn't have to. RFK doesn't have to fight Trump to run against him. I don't think you're going to see, if it's Trump, RFK, you're not going to see the type of partisanship we saw before. I think they're going to agree on most, and it's going to be about who gets to kill the deep state. Either it's the person who himself was character assassinated, or the person whose family was assassinated by the CIA. It's basically a vote on who gets to destroy the entrenched interests of the national security apparatus. And they both have a claim, right? They both have a claim. I think both of their claims are equally valid. I'd give RFK a little more because, they got him when he was young. Like, imagine what they did to his life. 14 years old when they killed his dad, and he was with his dad. So I think RFK, and because we've been under occupation since they killed his uncle, with very few interludes, to me, I put the moral case about who gets to destroy the deep state slightly higher on RFK, but Trump's persecution isn't over yet, right? So fourth arrest. Every time he gets indicted, he has another notch on his belt for why it's his turn. But I'll take either of them, or I'll take Vivek. All right, team. I'll see you in an hour or 50 minutes. Until then, and if I don't see you then, I'll see you tomorrow. Right? We're gonna have another great, maybe even better than today. It's gonna be even better than today. Today was a good episode. Tomorrow will be even better. All right, everyone. Peace. Have a good day.